So what is the most important thing that you want to prioritize after a separation? Now, if you are someone who tends to have codependent tendencies, then make sure you listen to this and prioritize this. And if you are someone who is a business owner who is really, really mindful of their time, this is the one thing that if anything else were to happen, make sure you do this. So after a separation, obviously, it is extremely heartbreaking, right? It is extremely heartbreaking, no matter what the circumstances are. It's a big life-changing event. And when something like this happens, your whole identity shifts, right? How could it not? Especially if you were in a long-term relationship that you've been in for years and even decades at times, right? How can you not feel distress and grief afterwards, no matter what the circumstances are, right? And so when you're able to actually prioritize this, it can really help you in your healing journey, processing grief, and also will help you rewire those codependent patterns so you become your own person and regain your sense of self. And it is completely easy. Well, it's not really easy. It's actually simple. And today I'm going to talk to you about one thing that you can do to make sure that you don't feel guilty by doing this. And so, what is it? What is it that you need to prioritize? Well, like I said, it's simple. The one thing that you need to prioritize is you. That's it. You need to be prioritizing yourself, your self-care, your needs, your wants, and your desires at this time. And why is this, right? And I'm sure you've heard about this, right? It's not the first time you've heard about this, but what if you are someone who feels guilty doing that, right? Or don't even know where to start? Sometimes this can feel so distressing. And sometimes we feel that we're already putting ourselves first. But when you actually look at it, if you look at your day, your 24-hour day, assuming, 8 of it is for sleeping and you got 16 hours, how much time do you actually dedicate for you, like specifically just time for you without anybody else, without without thinking about your other family members or friends, without thinking about your business and your clients, just you to really reconnect with you? How many hours do you give to yourself in the rest of the 16 hours in the day, right? So be honest with yourself with this, and how can you improve? Now, I'm not saying to not do anything at all every day. I mean, sure, if that works for you, but if you're someone who is running a business, right, you want to be able to be as efficient as this. And this can be just as simple as having a really solid morning and evening routine, right? Like maybe for half an hour, like do all your hygiene stuff, do all of your morning journaling or meditations or whatever it is, whatever practices helps you get movement throughout your day. This is one of the most important things you want to prioritize, because when you are if you are someone, I should say, that has codependent tendencies, you have been so used to caring for others, right? And in your circumstance, you probably took a lot of responsibility for the relationship that just ended, right? For your partner, you were so you gave so much to that person, and they may or may not have reciprocated that back, right? And so when you can come to terms with this reality, and when you're able to finally take the time, and you have the time now for yourself, it will make a tremendous difference with how you start showing up, right? Because also at this time after separation, when your identity has shifted, that affects your self-confidence, right? That affects your ability to value yourself, to believe in yourself again, to feel worthy and deserving enough. This at a foundational level. This intrinsically, that you are capable and good enough and smart enough. This, but sometimes afterwards, after the whole emotional roller coaster of the whole circumstances, it's sometimes difficult to believe it, right? It's one way about knowing it intrinsically, and you can say it out loud, but do you actually believe when you say out loud, I am worthy, I am deserving, I am good enough, right? How does that feel for you? Because this is the actual work. And by prioritizing yourself first, that's when you start believing those things again. That's when you start building your confidence back up again. When you prioritize yourself and actually do the self-care things that you had promised yourself, you are proving to yourself again that you have your own back, that you're trusting yourself again, that you are doing the things that that prove to you that you are valuable. Because truth of the matter is, if you put other people's needs first before your own, that part of you that wasn't seen, that wasn't heard, that wasn't understood in that relationship is not going to feel valued, right? Because you are putting all your energy towards someone else, and that is what creates that internal conflict, right? Like, you have one part of you that needs that attention, that wants that compassion, that deserves that care and attention, and the prioritization that you haven't been able to do. So give that to yourself. That's the best thing you can do, right? You owe it to yourself. And at the same time, don't beat yourself up for it, right? You know, get over. I know this is hard, but stop criticizing yourself, right? I know it's difficult, but this is one of the things that you get to work on as well. When you're able to prioritize yourself, that includes not being critical or overly judgmental of yourself when you fall back in those old patterns, because sometimes that happens, right? You tend to repeat the patterns from the past, and when you're not very intentional, or you don't know, you're not aware of those old patterns, then you just don't know, like you're just going to repeat it. So this time, when you prioritize yourself, you'll actually be able to look at yourself in the mirror, look at what's going on within internally, to know about what your actual needs were, what the needs that weren't met were in the previous relationship, because you can give that to yourself, right? For example, if you just didn't receive the compassion from your partner, how can you give compassion to yourself instead, right? It doesn't have to feel empty. And when we feel empty at times at this time, it's usually because we're missing something. We're missing something that we can give to ourselves, right? Because we're not really broken, we're not really empty as a human being, right? Like, our core identity is whole. We have just acted and behaved in ways that made us feel that way. So when you can change your identity and really start to believe that you are whole and worthy enough, then it's easier to change those behaviors when you're able to look at yourself by prioritizing yourself. It is all connected. It really just comes from this whole this one important thing about you really just truly being able to love and care for yourself and be compassionate with yourself. So I know that there was a lot there. And so I would encourage you today to think about what the best thing you can do for yourself is. And it doesn't have to be, 5 hours worth, especially if you're not used to that, right? Like, you can't expect yourself to run a marathon tomorrow if you've been a couch potato for months and months, right? I'm not saying that's you, but you can't expect a person who was a couch potato to be able to run a marathon tomorrow. So little steps, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one small thing at a time to fill yourself up, to fill your cup up. So what are you going to do for yourself today? Share it in the comments, be accountable, right? What are you wanting to promise to yourself today, starting today, and do it every single day? What is that? Yeah, drop it in the comments below. Be accountable to this. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure you drop them below, and I will see you soon.